Hello, Veritas families. This is Mr. Getchman, and I am here with our 2021 TNReady Parent Orientation. Now, last week we had sessions for 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and I know some of you were not able to attend. So I'd like to walk quickly through the presentation so you have all the details you need for your scholars to be successful in the TNReady these next 3 weeks. So let's go ahead and jump in. First, the agenda for this is 1, why do we TNReady test during a pandemic? Why are we doing this? 2, we'll look at the calendars. We'll talk testing safety, talk about arrival procedures, what the testing day looks like, wrap up the day with dismissal procedures. And we'll talk about some incentives to get kids excited and rewarded for coming in to test. And then we'll talk about what will they be doing on those days where they are not testing, which are going to be non-testing asynchronous days. And then finally, I know we're not here live with each other, but if you have questions, do not hesitate to reach out to me, to the front office. We want to make sure everybody has everything they need in order to be successful. So, TNReady testing. Why are we TNReady testing right now? 1, the state has said that, we haven't had TNReady testing since 2019. Last spring, tests were canceled due to the school shutdowns and the pandemic. And then looking ahead now, we're in 2021. We have a need for some data on state exams for our students. State exam data is used to show us how students have mastered the material over the year. It's used to show the growth of a student across a single school year and then across their school life. And so we haven't had any of that data in order to determine those things. So by testing this spring, we'll be able to collect another round and see, how well our students have performed over the year, and it'll give us some insight on how the school closures have affected student learning. So the state has decided that there would be testing, and in January, they came together to pass a series of bills regarding education. And one of them was around testing accountability. And here are the 3 main pieces that they said. Is that 1, yes, there would be TNReady testing for all students. There was some question at first whether that would happen or not, but they affirmed that we would have TNReady testing. 2nd, they said that regardless of how students have been getting their instruction, whether in person or virtual, all students will test in person. There is no virtual testing option. So it's partially why we're here. We want to talk about what does that look like to bring students back in to take their test. And then finally, this one is key. They have set a goal of at least 80% of scholars that need to complete testing. Now in a regular year, we blow by that because students are already here in the building and we just roll out the tests and take care of business. But in this year, when we've got a large number of students at home doing virtual learning, it adds a little bit of difficulty to the testing procedures. And so the state has said they want at least 80%. If you do not meet that 80% goal, then the state can come back with different consequences about those test results. And it could lead to something, as harmful as reduction in school funding. And when school funding decreases, then we know we don't have the resources, we aren't able to pay for the teachers, all these things that your students need and that you expect for them in order to grow and learn and do what they need to do at school. So our baseline goal is at least 80% of our scholars coming in and completing all 4 tests: ELA, math, science, and social studies. But we don't usually like to shoot for that baseline goal here at VCP. So we're working hard to get 100% of you into the building, knock out all 4 of those tests, do great work. And let's see, all the great things that have happened this year, regardless of everything else going on. So how are we going to make that happen? The first thing we want to point out is that we're going to make that happen by using a slightly different calendar for the month of May. And that calendar shows us that we are going to bring in only 1 grade level at a time. And so the schedules that you see here, this is a 6th grade specific testing calendar. We will walk through this calendar. 7th and 8th are also in here. I will display them after we walk through 6th, but you also should have a copy of this through email. Check our social media to be posted. We sent one through postal mail, and we're going to continue communicating this throughout these next 3 weeks. So hopefully you'll be very familiar with this schedule. But what does this mean? So let's start off with this week right here. So Monday the 3rd, you see it says regular schedule hybrid learning. That means essentially that everyone is doing what they're already doing. If you are an in-person scholar, you come to school in uniform, ready to learn. If you're a virtual scholar, you're logging into all those classes through Zoom, completing your work virtually. Nothing changes for that Monday. For sixth grade, a reminder, this is all sixth grade. On Tuesday the 4th, sixth graders will come into the building and take their ELA Part 1 and Part 2 tests. ELA Part 1 is the writing exam. It is the longest section of all the TNReadies. And Part 2 is a more traditional ELA, read the passages and respond. Sixth grade will be the only scholars in the building during that day. The 7th and 8th graders on the 4th will be participating in virtual learning, doing asynchronous lessons almost independently to complete their work and prepare for their upcoming tests. So Tuesday the 4th, you'll see sixth graders in the building. And you'll notice that in these calendars, those testing days for a specific grade level are in yellow. So these 4 yellow days that you see here are the very important testing days where your scholar will be here on campus. Moving throughout the rest of this first week with sixth grade, then you see on Wednesday the 5th and Thursday the 6th has virtual learning, all scholars. That means no matter what type of instruction your scholar normally receives on a regular day, they're all going to be virtual. So for instance, on Wednesday, our 7th graders are coming in. So 6th and 8th will be doing virtual learning. We'll talk about that at the end of the presentation as well, what that looks like. Sixth graders, again, on the 6th, you see, will be in virtual learning. And then finally, to end this week on the 7th, we're back to a regular schedule, hybrid learning. So those in-person scholars come back in for instruction. Those virtual scholars stay virtual on the 7th. That's the first week. So it looks a little bit different with the regular schedule days on each end, just because that writing exam is different and there's certain requirements about when they take that test. Looking at week 2, you see 2 yellow days. So sixth grade will be in the building for 2 days that second week. Sixth grade will be in the building testing on Monday the 10th, taking their ELA Part 3 and 4 tests. On Tuesday and Wednesday, the 11th and 12th, they will be performing virtual learning. And on Thursday, the 13th, sixth grade scholars will be back in the building, taking all 3 of the math subsections. To round out that week on Friday, the 14th, sixth grade scholars will be in virtual learning. Looking at the third week of testing, sixth grade starts off on the 17th with virtual learning, and then their final test date is science and social studies on Tuesday, the 18th. At that point, if they've attended all 4 of those days, they are done. Testing is wrapped up for them. They will have virtual learning on the 19th and 20th while the 7th and 8th graders wrap up their testing. And then you'll see that says regular schedule on the 21st. And from this point, the 21st on, we're back to that regular schedule of hybrid learning. Now, a couple things to point out. You'll notice that there's some days that say makeup testing in bold. As soon as a scholar misses an exam, we can get them in the next day, or maybe something came up in the morning and we can get them in the afternoon to do makeup testing. We point out these days here and here on the 24th because those indicate days where we really have to make sure makeup is finished, because on the 24th and 25th, schools are required to return the materials to the Board of Education. And at that point, all testing, is finished. And there's no makeup options there. So we see sixth grade is testing here on this calendar once again on the 4th, the 10th, the 13th, and the 18th. One thing to point out is that we're only looking at schedules for May due to the delayed start of our school year. Veritas College Prep is in school until June the 16th. Please know that no matter what your scholar may tell you, school is not over when testing's over. These are mandatory school days. We'll talk more about it and how we're going to approach those last 2.5 weeks. We'll be learning, it'll be engaging, getting scholars ready for their next step, but they are mandatory school days. Learning doesn't stop just because testing is over. One thing I want to point out here also is we have a number of families who have scholars in 2 different grade levels. You may have a 6th grader and a 7th grader. You may have a 7th and an 8th. What we ask for our families that have multiple scholars and multiple grade levels is that, one, if you can, send your scholars on their separate days. So you send your 6th grader on their specific days and your 7th grader on their specific days. That is what we prefer the most. And we prefer that because it allows us to make sure that we've got enough room in classrooms and we have everything set up just right for those scholars. We also know that we're asking you to do something different. We're asking you to change your schedule based on what you've been doing to make all of this pandemic learning happen. And it might not work to bring them on separate days. So if you have multiple grade level scholars and need to bring them on one day, a singular day, please just let us know in the main office so that we can make accommodations and we'll take care of you there. Our goal is to work with you as best we can so we can get everyone into the building, get their testing taken care of, and everyone feels safe and comfortable about it. So this is the 6th grade calendar. This screen right here is the 7th grade calendar. You'll see they test on Wednesday the 5th, the 11th, the 14th, and the 19th. And feel free to pause the video right now if you want to take a closer look at that. This is 7th grade. And then this is our 8th grade calendar. 8th graders will test on Thursday the 6th, Wednesday the 12th, Monday the 17th, and Thursday the 20th. Once again, feel free to pause the video here if you want to jot those down. But once again, we've sent these calendars out multiple ways and we'll continue to send them. If you misplaced it or need a copy and can't find it anywhere, all you got to do is call the main office, 526-1900. We'll make sure we get one to you right away. That takes care of the calendar for us. Next, you probably have questions about how we're going to do this safely. Many of you haven't been in the school building since March last year. And one key thing to make note of is we're still in the middle of a pandemic. We have made it so far. We are so close to hopefully taking care of this thing and being able to return to somewhat a sense of normalcy, but we can't let up now. So we have to do this in the way that's going to be the safest and healthiest way possible. So how are we making this healthy and safe in our building? The first piece is that we'll only have one grade level per day here in the building, which is about 50 to 60 students. Currently, we have about that number here for in-person learning. And so far, we've had a great first month and a half of that. And we think we can continue that. But by only bringing in one grade level per day, that allows us to spread students out. So instead of being in 2 homerooms, we allow to spread them out across our entire hallway so that we only have 10 to 12 students per classroom. We don't have the room in the building to bring everyone in at the same time and spread out and do that. So that's what led us to the schedule where we only bring in one grade level per day. But right away, by doing that, we spread the students out and we hit that next piece where we're able to social distancing. If you were to take a look in our classrooms, you'd see that desks are spread out by the 6-foot rule. We have markers throughout the hallways showing students where to stand, how far to space themselves from someone else. All those things that we need, those reminders to keep students social distanced. Mandatory masking. Scholars have to wear a mask within the building. You will see staff 100% of the time with masks in the building. Most of them like this. We got that great VCP lion there. So scholars are going to have to wear their mask while they're testing. If they've been in virtual learning and have been home in their room and haven't had to wear a mask all day long, it might be a little bit different. So please remember when you send them with the mask, if they've got one that is extra comfortable that they really like, send that one to them. Send that one with them on testing days. They should have received a Veritas mask on the very first day of school when we handed out supplies. If they've come back into the building, we should have given them a second one. So if you're a virtual scholar coming back for testing, we'll have another of these reusable Veritas masks. We also have disposable surgical masks that scholars can use if we're running behind and we forget a mask walking out the door. Desk shields. Each desk has a plexiglass desk shields around it so that scholars are protected in one other fashion. We have a wide variety and large quantities of PPE. We have so much hand sanitizer in this building, we could take care of everyone. So hand sanitizer is in each classroom, throughout the hallways, and then stored and ready to go in a moment's notice. Lysol wipes, we have gowns, face masks, gloves, all of the things that you'll need in order to be protected and do this safely. And then finally, increase cleaning of the building. Our team here has done a great job. We've got a crew that's here during the school day that's really on top of things, constantly moving throughout the building and making sure that classrooms are sanitized, the high traffic areas like bathrooms, et cetera, things that get a lot of hands on them, like doorknobs, all of that sanitized throughout the day. And then as students are exiting the building, we have a second crew coming in that does a deep clean every evening. So these are just a few of the things that we're employing to make sure that testing is safe. And like I said, we've had a great month and a half so far of scholars here in the building. I believe those preparations have set us up to be successful here in testing. If you see something or have questions about a safety issue that you don't see in the presentation or don't hear addressed, once again, do not hesitate to reach out. It's probably something we just didn't think of to put on the slide. So let's think about a test day and what that's going to look like. It starts with school arrival. School arrival time is 7:45 to 8:15 a.m. And when you are arriving during that time, or if you arrive prior to that time, we ask that you, in your car, join the car line out in front of the school on Dunn Avenue. There will be a line of cars. We ask that you wait with your scholar in the car until a member of the VCP staff, like myself, or an MCP elementary school staff member comes to the car, and they will do a temperature check of your scholar and a quick health screening. Just a couple questions. Hey, mom, hey, dad, anyone have a positive test at home in the last 2 weeks? Anyone showing symptoms? Ideally, every temperature checks out and everybody's healthy. So your scholar is then able to exit the car, send them into the building, and get that day started. At that point, feel free to pull off. We ask that you please do not drop your scholars off and leave. We need a parent there while we're scanning the temperature, just so that, a scholar may not be feeling well and they don't tell you. And as that temperature comes back too high, then we've got you there and we can talk about the next steps. If you're tardy, we all have those moments, those days when we're running behind, can't get out of the house quick enough, and it's after 8:15, there will not be a staff member out there to take temperatures. And once again, we need that parent present. So please park directly out in front of the school, walk with your scholar up to the main doors. We'll buzz you in and take that temperature and get you moving as quickly as we can. Now, as scholars enter the building, they'll greet multiple staff members along the way. They'll go into the cafeteria where breakfast is served if they'd like to eat it. After that, they move on back to our main hallway into their assigned homerooms, and the day begins. What do we want to bring on testing day? Essentially, you don't have to bring a whole lot. So let's talk with a few of them. 1, mask. We've talked about that. Please bring your mask so you're ready to go. 2, a water bottle. Water bottle, you can bring a reusable water bottle. You can bring a single-use plastic water bottle, but due to the safety standards, we have the water fountains turned off. So we want to make sure that everybody's hydrated throughout the day and they have something there at their desk they can drink it. Please do not send the large sodas, the large juices with them. Those cannot be out at their desk. Save those for the lunchbox if you want that, but just a water bottle. We will have plenty of water on site if students forget. So no worries there, but it's just ideal to send them with a full water bottle to start the day. And also, if they are not eating school lunch, you can send them with a lunch. School lunch is served for all scholars. So that option is always there. But if for whatever reason they don't eat the school lunch, please send them with a lunch. We really don't want to be dealing with deliveries of food during the lunch hour, because too often some of those things can get delayed, and that's going to push right into our afternoon testing block. So once again, if they don't eat the school lunch, just make sure that they've brought something with them in the morning. Now, what not to bring. So what not to bring includes cell phones, smartwatches, headphones, and their school computer. Their school computer, they will not need it during the day. I know our in-person scholars regularly bring them to school, but for these testing days, they do not need the school computer. Cell phones, let's talk about cell phones. Scholars do not need a cell phone during the testing days, and they are prohibited from having them in the rooms while they're testing. So if at all possible, please make sure your scholar leaves their cell phone at home. Cell phones and tests really don't mix. It leaves the opportunity that something could happen. It also just something innocent as you forget to turn it off and it rings in the middle of the test. All those things lead to different investigations and reports, whether that tests have to be canceled or invalidated, but it's just extra work that really you don't need. And scholars will have no use for them and no access to them during the day. So it's best to just leave them home. Now, we do know that some parents require that their scholar bring a cell phone because they, may be taking care of younger brother and sister and walking them home. You may require that they call you when they get off at the bus stop or when they make it home. So if you require them to have it, then what we'll do is you send your scholar with their phone. We'll have a basket at the front door. Scholars will turn in their cell phones there at the front door. They will be locked up in the main office. Then at the end of the day, when they're called for dismissal, they'll be able to pick it back up again. But if at all possible, just leave it home for those days. Don't need them. Smartwatches, as things such as Apple Watches have grown and got more sophisticated, the state has added them to their list of things that should not be in the testing room. And also headphones. Don't need to bring any headphones because we're not going to have any devices to listen to anything on. So you might as well go ahead and leave those at home. Hate to see someone lose an AirPod or something on a day when don't even have use for it. Oops. All right, test day expectations. What do we expect? Now, regardless of what you may hear about TNReady testing this year, we expect our students to take this serious and to give it their best effort. So please arrive with that attitude that you are ready to dominate. What does that mean? It means the night before, get some good sleep. And to get good sleep, you got to turn off the screens early. You got to put down the Xbox. You've got to get off TikTok, Snapchat, whatever you're on, Instagram. Stop texting your friends. We got to get you to bed early so you're ready and rested to go, and then eat a good breakfast. Or make sure you're up early enough that you get here at school and get breakfast, right? Have something in your stomach, that fuel for testing for the day. While you're here in the building, we want to make sure we're practicing that social distancing and stay in your designated areas. Third one says follow all teacher directions, which seems like a very obvious thing to talk about, but super important on testing days because teachers are giving very specific directions that are very important to your tests. You'd hate it if you were not paying attention. As your teacher says to begin your test, you start on section 3 of ELA when really you're supposed to be back on section 2. Now we've got all sorts of other things to worry about and take care of. So just listen and follow teacher directions. Finally, this testing is really important. Please give your best effort and come ready to give your best effort. For all of us, this testing and these scores and how you perform on there is going to be one of the last data points that you have to prove your case about what you're ready for in the next step. With my 8th graders, if you've been performing well throughout the year, here's your chance to knock it out of the park and show that high school that you're ready for the honors program or ready to take specific classes or maybe to get into a certain high school. For all of our scholars, 6th, 7th, and 8th, if you've struggled at all this year and maybe didn't have such a strong start to the first quarter or first semester, here's another chance for you to show like, hey, my grades may have struggled, but here is a data point that shows that I am ready for the next step, the next grade. I'm ready to be able to go to summer school and turn things around. So put your best foot forward, show us what you really know, and give your absolute best on those tests. Now, on a testing day, scholars are going to come into the building, as we said, eat breakfast, go to their homeroom. There we'll do a variety of activities, motivation, pump up, may have a quick review of a certain topic, and then we're going to jump in and take the first test. As the first test wraps up, scholars will have a little bit of downtime to kind of refresh. We have the lunch hour built in for scholars to eat, get some fresh air, and then at 1 o'clock, we'll crank up with the second part of the test. Now we know there's some schedules, some calendars, other places where they're cramming more tests in on a certain day. Here we've decided to do it the way we're doing it because we, one, want to make sure we have a safe way of testing, but then 2, by spacing it out like we have, we want to give our scholars the best chance that they have to score at their highest level. Right? I don't want them exhausted from taking 4 tests in a single day. I want them fresh and ready to go. So that's testing day. Testing wraps up and it's time now for dismissal. So our normal dismissal time is 3:30 to 4, in which we allow you to join the dismissal line, we'll call for scholars to send them out. Here's what we're doing during the testing. Scholars may be dismissed starting at the conclusion of testing. So testing will be finished by 2:30 p.m. If you are ready to pick up your scholar starting at 2:30 or from 2:30 to the normal dismissal time, we'll dismiss scholars because we know this is a unique situation. So what you can do is, if you're looking to pick up early, park in the front. You're gonna have to come out of the car, come to the main office, and we'll call your scholar. Now, if you're just going to stick with the regular dismissal time of 3:30 to 4, or want them to stay, whatever it is, that's fine. You'll arrive 3:30 to 4, remain in the car, staff member will assist you, we'll radio in for the scholar, send them out, and you'll be on your way. We do ask and make sure you are there by 4 o'clock to pick up. As I mentioned earlier, we've got a staff that comes in, does a deep clean of the building. We also know this is Teacher Appreciation Week. I want to make sure we get everybody their time after that 4 p.m. to prep for the next day and ready to go. So that's dismissal. Some testing incentives. So how can we make this more fun? How can we make it we're fired up and ready to go? And maybe rewarded for our testing here in the building. So one, VCP Spirit Days. We are going to have certain theme days throughout the testing period where scholars can choose to dress up as the theme of the day. For instance, Pajama Day, and get comfortable, come in your pajamas, celebrate the VCP spirit, but also knock your test out of the park. On top of that, no uniforms are required on those testing days. So whether you choose to dress up as the theme day, we have favorite sports team day, whether you choose to represent a team or not, you do not have to put on your school uniform. One, we want to use that as an incentive for students, but two, I don't want anyone to go out and have to buy a uniform for only 4 days of testing. I know that some of you that have been in virtual learning for the past year, over a year, have seen your scholars grow like crazy. And some of those uniforms might not fit anymore. Absolutely positively don't want you to go out and have to buy something just to make do for 4 days. So there will be no uniforms those days. And we encourage you to participate in the Spirit Dress Days. Your scholars have been shared that information. Our student council came up with the different days and some incentives. They've sent that to you, and we'll pass that on as well, so you know every day what scholars will be doing. Easy grades. You come and get 100% for that day for showing up and testing. Just pretty easy. That 100% always helps someone. So you came in, you tested hard, seems like an A+ to me. In order to incentivize the groups that get the highest number of students out, we're going to give rewards to the top homeroom that comes in and tests. So each grade level has 2 homerooms. Whichever one has a higher percentage testing group, they're going to get a reward. Might be a pizza party later that day or the next time they come in. Same thing for the top grade level. School-wide rewards, we hit that 80% or higher. We've got some things planned there. And then for perfect attendance, those individual scholars who come in all 4 days, each one of those scholars will receive a prize pack, which has a variety of fun things like some VCP swag, some passes for dress down later in the year, maybe a free homework pass for the night, etc. Finally, we have some parent and family rewards. I see a picture here of a gift card. So we are going to make it fun for you as well. So those families that get their students in all 4 days going to have a chance to, in a drawing, to earn some rewards yourself. Now, on our non-testing asynchronous days, here's how things are going to work. As we mentioned, we're only bringing in 1 grade level per day. So the other 2 grade levels are going to be doing virtual learning, and they're going to work asynchronously or independently on their assignments. Key thing, and it's here in bold, these are mandatory school days. These are not off days. These are not free days. These are still learning days. It just looks a little different. If you remember the week before spring break, as we had our teachers setting up classrooms and getting prepared for the return of students post spring break, we actually had 3 days that looked just like this. And so here's how it's going to work. Scholars should be logging into their Zoom homeroom from 8 to 8:15 on those asynchronous virtual learning days. That's our normal homeroom time, so it shouldn't be anything different. But this time it's extremely important because during that Zoom homeroom, scholars are going to be going over all their assignments with their teachers. So their ELA teacher will be there to walk them through what they're expected to do that day, where to find everything in Google Classroom or any other program that they're using, what the expectations are, and when that needs to be finished. So ELA will do that math, science, and social studies. So that at the end of that homeroom period, scholars are dismissed to complete their assignments independently and asynchronously, and they have everything that they need. Those assignments are going to be things that they can do independently, because at this point, these assignments are going to be preparation for the upcoming test. So it's not going to be new material, it'll be review material, and each scholar will have what they need to do that. Now, as you see in the last bullet, it says assignments to be completed by end of day. That will qualify for their attendance for the days by completing these things. And they have the freedom to work at their pace. So some scholars may feel really motivated to get things done, skip through lunch to work on their next assignment, and wrap up their day a little bit earlier than normal. That's great. Others may decide to just take their time and space it out like they have a normal school day. Fine there as well. Key thing is, they have to get these things finished. They have to put in the work to get the credit for the day. Now, it's also very important that they get their questions here in this 8 to 8:15 block, because while scholars are working asynchronously at home, their teachers will be monitoring and administering tests in the classroom. And while they're doing that, teachers do not have access to any technology. So they can't take any questions through email, text, chat. They can't jump on a Zoom and help you. All they can do is sit there and look at the scholars who are in the room testing and make sure that everything's going well in the testing environment. So you won't have access to your teachers on those days. So make sure you are there for homeroom to get everything answered and you know exactly what you need to do. And those are asynchronous days and what those scholars will be doing while they're not in the building. That brings us to the end here. As you see, it says questions. And as I said, we're not here live with each other. So please, if you have questions, don't hesitate to send those to us here at the school. I think the preparation we've done to bring back scholars into the building, the work you have done with us to make this happen, all of that's going to make this go very smoothly. I'm excited to see what our scholars will do. I'm excited to see many of you actually in flesh, in person here at school. It's been way too long for some of you. So there should be some excitement, and it's okay if there's also some of those first day school jitters as well. But know that we have everything set up for this to be successful, and we want to make sure that you feel comfortable and you feel strong about what we're doing. And if you don't, please let us know so we can talk through those issues. So once again, excited for a great 3 weeks here to knock out all this testing. We'll be in contact regularly over the next 3 weeks so that you are aware and make sure you're reminded of what days your scholars must come into the building. If you have anything else, just let us know. Thanks for taking some time with me today to go over our plan, and everybody have a great day. Thank you so much. Take care.